Hey, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of Inside Pima County with Supervisor Rex Scott. I am Supervisor Rex Scott, and we are really happy and excited to have with us today one of our newest department directors, Tess, who is overseeing our library district. Tess, welcome, and thank you so much for taking the time to be with us.
Thanks for the invitation to be here.
Absolutely. Now, I mentioned that you're one of our newer department directors. Tell us a little bit about your background, personally, professionally, and what led you to Pima County.
Thank you so much. Well, originally, I am from Southern California, and I made my way after teaching ESL and traveling for a bit. I ended up in Seattle, Washington, and I eventually got into library work in Seattle, Washington, and I've worked for both of the public library systems, so the municipal Seattle system and then also the King County system, which is really where I became an administrator. And, then I took a job for the city of Berkeley in October of 2020, so in the middle of the height of the pandemic.
Oh, wow.
I changed jobs.
Oh, no.
And I moved to Berkeley, California to become the director of that library system, where I worked up until I came to Pima County.
So what was it that motivated you, Tess, to jump from being a teacher of English as a second language into the world of libraries?
It was a little bit more circuitous type of path, right? I've always been interested in learning and, the ability to provide platforms for people to learn. And of course, I come from educators as well, so it's always a value in my
Your
family.
parents were educators?
Yeah, my mom was an ESL teacher.
Great.
For the Los Angeles School District. And so I think that, one of the things that really drew me to the library was actually working for a brief period as an organizer for Service Employees International Union, where I was a representative and an organizer, and I worked with people who were cleaning commercial office buildings. And one of the things I came to understand about my job is that having information can change your life. It can empower you to do something different. It can empower you to, pursue something that you need to pursue, whatever your goals are. And a lot of my job was sort of letting people know information about their benefits, information about the contract. And through that experience, it really made me interested in the libraries. Libraries are places that are somewhat less structured, than traditional school settings, where anyone can pursue almost any kind of goal. And they can do that sometimes in community with other people. Sometimes they do that individually. But I really appreciated the fact that libraries just represented this place where people can grow and pursue their goals, whatever they are and whoever they are, right? And so I made this transition. When I was still in Seattle, I went to the University of Washington Information School. Go Huskies.
Wow, you're saying that in Tucson?
I'm taking a risk. And then basically transitioned into librarianship, and I've remained in this career path up through now.
And it sounds like libraries, in terms of their egalitarian mission, have always been attracted to you. But what is it about the various components of the Pima County library system that made you think, okay, I want to apply for this job?
Yeah, a lot of people were surprised that I had accepted the position here. For me, it made complete sense, right? And I think that part of it was my understanding of the community of people that work in Pima County, the amazing staff of the library system, and the fact that I thought that our goals were very much aligned. So part of what's always drawn me to librarianship is, making sure that we're addressing barriers to access, whatever they might be. And so because of that, I spent a lot of time in different fields that included mobile services, doing outreach to people, At one point, I oversaw the library's equal access program for people with disabilities, and I was always very focused on multilingual access. And I think that based on all of those different things, I came here and I found a community of people who were very passionate about representing their community in the library and making sure that the people in the community were connected to their libraries in meaningful ways. And I felt there was like a true sort of confluence of values that felt really good to me.
So in terms of everything that attracted you into library science in the first place, you saw a lot of those components in the staff and the structure of the Pima County library system, and also how the community feels about its libraries.
Absolutely.
So give us a little overview for people who may not know all of the different libraries in Pima County. How many libraries do we have? How many people are under you as the director of the library district, and how often, how well do people in Pima County use their libraries?
I appreciate the question. I also just want to start by adding a little bit,
Of course.
which is one of the things that attracted me to coming to Pima County was the size and the scope of the county.
Okay.
Because the city of Berkeley, where I had been before, is very small. It's also, in relative terms, sort of a little bit more homogenous. Of course, there's great diversity in Berkeley, but it's a relatively small place. And I had worked for King County, which is, I think, one of the largest library systems, at least the highest circulating library system in the country.
Right.
And I was really excited to come back to county service specifically because I think it's really interesting to work in a place where there's so many different communities. There's so many different ways to serve people. There's a lot of opportunities to I think, interact with community in different ways. And so that was something that I was really excited about with this opportunity. It is really wonderful that the Pima County Public Library has 27 locations, and they're not just 27 buildings. I mean, some of these buildings are really beautiful, have been recently redeveloped. I think are designed beautifully. So, of course, that's appealing to be in a place where there are these beautiful community assets that people have the opportunity to take advantage of. And then, just sort of more generally, I think the reach of the system is also very good. I think there's always room for us to do more in terms of being able to reach people. And I know that there are some communities where people currently feel like there's room for expansion, or they may feel like they're underserved relative to people in other communities in terms of their ability to access the library. So that's one thing that we're always thinking about. Currently, we get approximately 3 million visits a year to all of these 27 locations, and that's only in person. Of course, we have a very robust website with a lot of online services, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a minute. And because our online services, I think, are sort of our best kept secret. And really, I think it's important to look at visitors to the website and usage of all of those resources as well when you think about usage of the library. With respect to the size of our team, I oversee approximately 500 people work for the Pima County Public Library.
Well, that is a big team, and they're spread out amongst those 27 buildings. And you made reference to the online services that the library provides to our constituents. What are some of the other notable services that people can count on when they walk into one of those branches?
Well, so in person, it sounds like.
Well, not just, I apologize, not just in person, but what can they count on no matter how they're accessing the library in terms of services?
Excellent. Well, I think in the broadest term, libraries provide a lot of programming. So they provide programming in person. We also provide online programming, which I think is really important because not everyone is able to access in-person programs. And we can kind of discuss the different types of programs that we offer in a minute. We also, of course, offer many different kinds of materials, physical materials that people are able to check out. So they're able to borrow these for free after they get a card. And there's a few different ways to do that. And then they just need to return them within a certain time period, whether it be a few weeks, depends on the kind of item, if it's a book versus an audio book. People are also able to download or access a lot of resources for our website. So they could get ebooks, which are hugely popular. Right now we're circulating probably about the same amount of ebooks as we are physical books. So you can see that this is a hugely popular resource, and really that it's only going to continue to gain in popularity, I think, as more and more people just use ebooks, and also discover that the library has ebooks, because I think a lot of people don't realize that you can access ebooks for free from the library, as opposed to going to other platforms where you might need to pay. So it's a pretty wonderful opportunity. There's also a lot of content that the library offers on the website that you can stream. So there are classes that you can take. There are technology, which is other type of programming classes that you can take online. You can also participate in things like book groups with other people online and in person. So there are a lot of ways to connect with people as well as learn through the library.
I really appreciate you saying that sometimes people have an outdated notion of what a library offers. And certainly those traditional programs and services that we all know from our experience with libraries when we were kids are there. But what do you think are some of the programs that are perhaps less traditional that have a lot of appeal to Pima County residents?
Oh, that's such a great question. Obviously there are, as you said, the types of programs that are still focused around books of literacy.
Sure.
And I really want to emphasize just for everyone who's listening and or watching that I think that libraries are still really fundamental components to supporting literacy. And I think that if anything, we need to continue to double down on the mission of supporting literacy through libraries. So, and that can take many different forms, apart from story times with children. It can be author visits. You can have children's authors with special story times. We have Read to a Dog programs to help children become more comfortable, reading out loud, which is an important skill that I know you're familiar with. And we also have a lot of really innovative different types of people coming through. So I had this opportunity to attend a program at Wilmot, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, and it was a beautiful program that featured someone doing spoken word to basically like a chamber group playing music behind them. And it was just like, I'd never seen that particular type of performance anywhere, let alone in the library. And I just thought it was a really remarkable example of the way that staff are identifying these ways to connect people with not just resources, but also these experiences that they might otherwise not have. And I think that's really important.
So I can imagine being relatively new to the position, you're getting the lay of the land, you're seeing what's in place already that you want to build on. But what are some innovations or reforms that you already know that you want to shepherd as our director?
So I think it's really important to always listen to feedback from the community and from the staff in terms of what they're identifying as needs and concerns.
Right.
One of the things that surprised me is that our our materials handling system is rather out of date. The technology that we use to actually like manage our inventory, our books, which of course is a hugely important service, is not really optimized. And it's an interesting short story, which was Pima County was actually an early adopter of an RFID technology long ago that was one of the first sort of products of that type. And that technology didn't actually take hold, and so it wasn't successful. But then every other library system of this scope, almost all of them adopted this technology, but we haven't done that yet. So I think that there's some things that we need to optimize that will not only make the work safer for staff, but will also make it a better experience for users, because people will be able to check out books more easily. There will be more self-service opportunities. I know that some people don't prefer that, and we will always have people there to help.
Right.
Some people do. And it will also sort of make things more efficient behind the scenes in terms of how we manage the book and how we get them from point A to point B. And that's something that's really important, as I said, not just for speed of access, but also for the people who are handling the materials over and over again.
We've talked a lot about books and ebooks and the written word, and that's what people think of when they are thinking of the library more often than not. But there's a lot of items that you can check out from the library system. What are some examples of some of the more interesting items that you can check out at one of our local libraries?
More interesting items. No, I was very happy to hear that we have blood pressure cups that you can check out. And I was actually just recently having a talk with our county health director regarding sort of updating that equipment and making sure that we have enough of those to circulate.
Right.
Because I think that people do need to be able to access these tools with some efficiency, right? And the public library is a great place to be able to connect people with resources like that. Another thing that I think is really great, and I love to talk about it, is our Culture Pass program, which you can check out in our libraries, and it actually provides access to a number of museums for free. And there are some restrictions, and
so museums around the world.
Museums around the world, not quite. There's a list of local museums on our website, but I think that this is really important because sometimes these are the types of extras that people feel like they can't really. Maybe they're going through difficulties. They don't feel like they can use their limited funds to do something like that, and this makes that experience available to everybody and to every family. And I think that's really important.
Tremendously. You mentioned earlier when we were talking about 27 branches that some of them have had some recent work done.
Yeah.
Some of them have work that is forthcoming. What are some improvements to various branches that you would want to highlight for our listeners and viewers?
Well, I can't say enough about our new Richard Elias Mission Library. I'm so excited for that to reopen. It's not in District 1, but
that's okay.
Silicon Plains. And it's just, that everyone was showing me, of course, the original footprint of this location and the size it's going to be, which is how expansive and how many more spaces for the community to use. I'm just really excited for that one in particular. And we're hoping to reopen that new location in spring.
Wonderful.
So that's coming up.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Any others that you wanted to talk about?
Well, we're certainly eager to learn more about our new Shelby Valdez main library. That we're a long way away from a new library, but I think I think that the journey is going to be exciting, and I think that we're really going to be relying on community feedback to inform what people are looking for in a new main library. And I know how important this library is to people, and it's important to me too, even though I'm not originally from Tucson. And I think that there's going to be just a really good opportunity for people to share what they would like to see in a new main library.
You know, Pima County takes advantage of a piece of state legislation that was enacted into law 7 years ago, and we use a small portion of the secondary property tax that funds the library district to support our early childhood education scholarships. And the reason the legislature and the previous governor said that we could do that was very much connected with literacy. And you made a very important statement about how libraries really are the centerpiece of literacy in a community. Oftentimes, what can you tell folks about how we balance the support for our novel and very much pioneer education, early education scholarships with the operations of the library district?
I appreciate that you brought this up in the context of literacy and the importance of literacy education. And I think this is something that every state is struggling with, is how are we going to provide access to early education? And I think it's incredibly important. And the main thing that I think about with respect to this is that we don't need to approach this as a zero-sum game. These are both incredibly important programs for our community. We support our public libraries. We support early childhood education. And I think that the reality is that we need to find ways to support both of them.
And it's absolutely the policy responsibility of the board to do that, and we're committed to that. But I so appreciate what you said about this not being a zero-sum game, and I just think it's important for the community to know that library operations and providing library services to our constituents are never going to be in conflict with the important goal of reducing barriers to access to early childhood education.
Absolutely, and we're focused on making sure that the library system continues to provide the level of service that it had prior to 2020, and thus far we're being supported in our efforts to rebuild the library system and return to an operating schedule that offers a more extensive hours, or I should say the hours that we used to have, which I think is really important to sort of working people.
Expand on that, because I know that when we had our initial meeting, you were talking a bit about what you'd like to see in terms of expansion of hours at the library. I'd love for you to talk about that here on the podcast.
Yeah, so we basically looked at our library system and we did some analysis just in terms of if we were to restore some hours, where would we do it? Where would make the most sense to do it? And we needed to evaluate a number of different criteria in making that decision. And so one of the things we looked at was just the breadth of hours and access across the county. We wanted to make sure that there was equitable access across all of these 27 locations. We looked at current locations that are offering higher levels of service. And so we were trying to identify branches that were further away from those. So looking at a certain amount of distance in between branches to determine where the next hub should be. And we were also looking at adding back primarily Mondays or Saturdays, depending on the location. So these are all high-use locations, some very heavily used locations. Some of them are high circulation locations. One of them is in District 1. And it's a very popular location due to the Very River Library. We're planning on adding back Saturday service. I can't give you a timeline yet because we just got the approval to add the position to make this possible. But when we have a better sense of the timeline, we will let you know.
And it's all about maximizing access to the libraries for all the different parts of our community, and each individual within those parts of the community may need that access at different times. And then it sounds like you also want to make sure people are aware of all of the programs that they can access without actually walking into a branch.
I think it's really important because there's, quite frankly, so much that you can do online. I know it's not for everyone, but I think, there's one program in particular I just want to mention that people may not be aware of. It's called Career Online High School. It basically is a high school accreditation program that allows you not just to get a diploma, but it allows you to get credited in particular areas as well. So you can specialize in a number of different subject areas. And this is a relatively expensive program, and I'm really grateful to our friends and our foundation because they help sponsor scholarships so that people are able to participate in this program. And I think that this is a really significant way, an example of how the library makes a difference, just in terms of people's ability to, move forward with their education, with their goals, with their work.
You just made reference to the Friends of the Pima County Library, and then also the foundation that supports the work of the library. Anything else that you'd like to say about those two organizations and how they support our libraries?
Yeah, I just very much want to express my gratitude to our Pima County Library Foundation and the Pima County Public Library Friends. There are a few different friends groups that are available for people to join, and some of them are more geographically based. So, for example, there's a friends group based in the Oro Valley. There's a friends group based in Ariboka, because it's harder for people to find their community, and it's nice for people to connect locally to other library supporters. But these are wonderful organizations. They work somewhat differently. As people may be familiar with the Friends, they actually raise funds through book sales. And these book sales are incredibly popular. If you have not been to one and you consider yourself a bibliophile, you've got to go. The main sale is by Country Club, and I'm trying to remember the Crown Street. But they're just phenomenal. And I think that the other thing that's really great about these organizations, they're both independent, but they provide funds to the library system to support our programming and to support initiatives that we would otherwise not really be able to support. They're largely volunteer-driven organizations as well. And it's a really wonderful way to get involved in the community, in the life of the library, and just to meet other people who enjoy doing it similar.
Well, we covered a lot of ground during this conversation, Tess, and again, I'm so grateful for your time and your commitment. Was there anything that we didn't talk about that's important for you to share with our listeners and viewers about our libraries?
I just want to, I think, reinforce that literacy is very important. I've already addressed that. I also really think that I still see libraries as the cornerstone of our democracy. Libraries are places where you can get information about how to register to vote. You can frequently get information about candidates. You can also, some of our locations are both early voting sites and also places where you can vote. And I just want to emphasize how important this is. Like, it's really a place where everyone has access to information. And that's really what we need to support our democracy. So I do want to emphasize that. And I also want to emphasize that we are excited to be part of an institution that supports people's ability to access information, and also we support people's ability to access and read what they're interested in reading.
Fantastic. Well, Tess Mayer, very grateful to you again for being with us today, and excited to see how our library system grows and thrives under your leadership.
Thank you very much.
Thank
It
you.
was wonderful to talk with you.
And enjoyed it greatly. And thank all of you for listening and watching. We'll see you next time.